What's up everyone, it's Magic here, and today we're talking electronic front curtain shutter. So E-front curtain shutter, this is the name in the options of Sony. It's Sony A7IV specifically in today's video, but in general in all of the Sony cameras it's the same. And it actually might ruin your bokeh when it's set to on, which is by default. But also it comes with a lot of benefits. So I'm going to weigh those benefits today. And I'll be honest with you, I actually should have given more attention to this before setting up my camera, but I did not. I only looked at the benefits. But today I'm just going to show you A/B samples so you can decide on your own how to use it, and I'll give you my recommendation. So what it is, basically it is a different way of how camera is using mechanical shutter and electronic shutter to take a photo. I'm not going to go deep into the mechanics of that, but the real question is what it does. And the main thing that I used to look at what it does is when it's set to on, which is by default, the shutter sounds like this. And when you set it to off, the shutter sounds like this. So there's this double sound of a shutter. So it's louder and it's just more profound. The sound is just instead of tish. That's why I kept it on for all times. But then there are more benefits of using it on, again, which is by default. This setting is on by default. Another benefit of having it on, there's a less shooting lag. So when you set it to off, you might experience a slight lag after clicking and before taking a photo. So if you are personally sensitive to that, make sure you have it to on. Okay, so the bokeh affecting thing, because the way the shutter works just makes the whole image looking slightly different, but only when you are shooting really fast shutter speeds. So 1/8000 of a second, which might happen if you're using lenses like 35, 1.4 or 50, 1.2 and you shoot wide open, which is something I personally do often. When you're outside, outdoors, there's a nice weather and you want to shoot wide open. You shoot 1/8000 of a second. Let's look at the portraits. These are shot on a tripod, so these are identical photos. So this is photo with electronic shutter set to off, and this is set to on. Off, on, off, on. So what we can see, look here closely. So what you will see, here's on, here's off. You see that the bokeh with this setting set to off is more round and it's just more smooth. While if you set it to on, the circle becomes the half circle actually, or the partial circle only. So that looks kind of weird, and it's gonna be dependent on the bokeh itself. So there's a couple more photos. Let's look here. This is the setting set to off, and this is setting set to on. So you can see there's a difference in the smoothness of the bokeh. Off, on. Off, on. This again, off, on, off, on. The difference is quite significant, specifically if you're shooting lenses like 51.2, like I'm shooting right here, and you're after that super creamy bokeh. So in order to get it, shooting that fast shutter speeds, you have to look at this option and making sure how do you have it set up. But also there are certain situations, I'm going to show you a couple more photos. So this is off and on, off and on. See how different the bokeh is. This is on, so this is by default, and this is when you set it to off. Off, on, off, on. You probably should start seeing the pattern of how the bokeh balls look. They're not round anymore. They're just like this half circles. One more, off, on, on. But then this photo, this is the background that I like taking photos in front of background like this. This is the E-front curtain shutter off. This is on. I actually prefer it on in this particular case because I prefer it to be more sharp than smooth, but that's some personal thing. But you can see that the quality of the bokeh just depends on the bokeh itself. The round bokeh will get half round, so this is not ideal. I prefer round and smooth here, but in this particular case I prefer the harsher bokeh than the smoother bokeh. And one more shot just to give you the idea of the difference. Maybe I'll go side by side this time. because you can now see specifically here how smooth this background blur is here and how much harsher it is on this side. Also, these photos are edited with my Magic Cadabra preset, so this is before. You see how flat and boring it is, and then I apply the preset. I just make slight change with exposure, and actually that's it. That's the photo. Bam! Before, after. Adds colors. It's beautiful. You can purchase down below. Thanks for supporting the channel. So what I am personally gonna do is I'm gonna have it set to on, but like it's by default, all times, but then I will be just very careful in a certain situations, and I will move actually this setting to my favorites menu, so it's right there, so I can just quickly change it, because there are situations that I'm shooting 1/8,000 of a second, and I actually looked in the full library of my photos. I went to my 100,000 photos that I have in my Lightroom, and I went to filter it by metadata. I found the 1/8,000 of a second. And there's a bunch of photos here, and like even recently, this is one of my recent shoots, and this was the moment that I saw it after I took this photo, and I was like, oh no, I forgot about the settings. So this is not ideal. I don't like it that much. I would prefer it to be smoother, but it happened. This is what happens. And also it does happen up to 1/5,000 of a second. So when you this is a threshold. So 1/5,000 of a second would be probably, you know, the limit if you are shooting faster shutter speeds. I would change it to off. If you are shooting only slower speeds, you can just go by on, because there is no difference at all. So yeah, guys, be careful. Make sure you remember about that. Move that to your quick menu, to your, you know, first menu, so it's just right up there, like reminding you about itself. And yeah, I think just be aware when shooting like this kind of, you know, fast portraits outdoors, that you might just need to look at this settings. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's tons of knowledge about Sony cameras, specifically Sony A7IV. There's full playlists that you can actually watch here. And thanks so much for watching. I see you guys in the next video.